Where's Tom?
He's going out on a charter.
Will he be back, you know?
I don't know. He gassed up for the whole day. Why?
We'll get her on a flight to L.A. today.
I'm not going back unless Tom says I have to.
Deli, I know what he's going to do.
Paula.
Imagine being Gene Hackman, a seasoned actor standing on the set of Night Moves, watching a 16-year-old Melanie Griffith dive into the water completely nude. The air is tense. The camera rolls. And Hackman? Well, let's just say he wasn't exactly speechless, but what was happening was scandalous enough to delay the film's release for nearly 2 years. Why? Because Hollywood had to wait for Griffith to turn 18 to legally include those scenes. Welcome to the twisted, behind-the-scenes drama of Night Moves, one of the most controversial neo-noir thrillers of the 1970s. Directed by Arthur Penn, Night Moves hit theaters in 1975, bringing a murky, tangled web of deception, murder, and psychological turmoil. It starred Gene Hackman as Harry Mosby, a down-on-his-luck private investigator who gets entangled in a missing person case that spirals into something much darker. The cast also featured Susan Clark as Harry's estranged wife, Jennifer Warren as the enigmatic Paula, and James Woods in an early role as Quentin. But the most talked about performance came from a young Melanie Griffith making her film debut as Deli Grassner, a role that would spark significant controversy. Harry Mosby is a retired professional football player turned private eye. His life is already in disarray. His wife is cheating on him, his career is floundering, and his moral compass is barely holding together. He's hired by a fading Hollywood actress to track down her rebellious teenage daughter, Deli, who has run off. The search takes him from Los Angeles to the Florida Keys, where he finds Deli staying with her former stepfather, Tom Iverson, played by John Crawford, and his mysterious girlfriend, Paula, played by Jennifer Warren. It doesn't take long for Harry to realize that Deli's troubles are far from innocent. Her life is entangled with stuntmen, mechanics, and criminals, all of whom seem to be hiding something. As Harry peels back the layers, he stumbles upon a smuggling operation involving stolen Mexican artifacts and a deadly conspiracy that's already claimed lives. The deeper he digs, the more he realizes he might never fully understand what's happening. The movie builds to a climax where betrayal, violence, and tragedy leave Harry quite literally adrift, floating in a boat, wounded and unable to steer, while the camera pulls back, leaving audiences with an unforgettable, ambiguous ending. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, Melanie Griffith's role. At just 16 years old, Griffith had to perform topless and nude scenes, which raised serious ethical and legal concerns. The most infamous of these is the skinny dipping diving scene, where Griffith is fully exposed. But how did the production get away with it? Simple. They didn't, at least not at first. Filming began in October 1973, but Griffith, having just turned 16, still looked too young for the role. The studio made a controversial decision. They delayed the release for nearly 2 years until Griffith was legally 18, allowing them to film additional shots and avoid potential legal trouble. Despite this, Griffith's original scenes from when she was a minor were still included in the final cut, a move that remains a point of contention in film history. In later interviews, Griffith downplayed the controversy, saying, "It's no big deal. If you're under 18, you can't do bottom nudity in California, but you can do top nudity." While that might have been her perspective, many critics and historians view the situation differently, seeing it as another example of how young actresses were often exploited in Hollywood during that era. Gene Hackman, a consummate professional, was at the top of his game in Night Moves. His performance as Harry Mosby is one of his best, subtle, layered, and deeply melancholic. But even he couldn't escape the film's chaotic production. The script, penned by Scottish writer Alan Sharp, was a masterpiece of ambiguity and misdirection, but it led to creative conflicts between Penn and the studio. Sharp wanted a more explicit, raw film, while Penn preferred a psychological slow burn. One of the most infamous production moments happened at the house of James Woods' character Quentin. That house belonged to Phil Kaufman, a road manager for the late musician Graham Parsons. While filming, police showed up to question Kaufman about Parsons' stolen body, a bizarre real-life event that inspired the 2003 film Grand Theft Parsons. As Kaufman was being taken away, Arthur Penn turned to Hackman and quipped, "Man, I think we're shooting the wrong movie." One of the film's most intriguing yet often overlooked aspects is its clever use of chess as a thematic device. Harry Mosby is frequently seen studying a particular chess match from 1922, where a player missed a winning sequence of knight moves, ultimately losing the game. This subtle detail serves as a metaphor for Harry's own investigation. He is so focused on individual moves that he fails to see the bigger picture. The final scene, with Harry wounded and helpless on a boat moving in endless circles, mirrors this theme perfectly, leaving both the protagonist and the audience trapped in uncertainty. At the time of its release, Night Moves wasn't a commercial hit. Audiences expecting a straightforward detective thriller found themselves lost in a maze of ambiguity and psychological despair. But over the years, the film has gained a cult following and is now considered one of the best neo-noirs of the 1970s. Roger Ebert praised the film, calling it one of the best psychological thrillers in a long time. The film's enigmatic final moments, where Harry is left helpless on a circling boat, have been dissected endlessly, representing everything from post-Watergate disillusionment to the futility of trying to make sense of life's chaos. So, did Night Moves leave Gene Hackman speechless? Maybe not in the literal sense. But the scandal surrounding Melanie Griffith's scenes, the film's cryptic storytelling, and the delays due to legal concerns certainly made this one of the most talked about thrillers of its time. It's a movie that demands multiple viewings, rewarding those who appreciate its deeper themes of regret, failure, and deception. Now it's time to hear from you. Have you seen Night Moves? What do you think about the controversy surrounding Melanie Griffith's role? Do you think this film deserves its reputation as a neo-noir classic? Let us know in the comments below.